Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. What is going on? It is Gale right here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Memoria Freese video, and it's that time of the week once again. It's the time for a Should You Summon, and this week we of course have the final set of the Astrea Record Banners. Of course, there are 4 banners to go over, so I'm not gonna waste any of your guys' times. We're gonna get right into it. Of course, if you guys want to enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for more Danmachi and Danmachi Memoria Freese content, and of course leave a comment down below letting me know, did you guys summon on the banner, and if so, how did your banners go? Did you guys get some good luck, bad luck? Let me know. And of course, if you guys didn't summon, let me know why as well. I'm curious to see what your reasoning is. I know for most people it'll probably be saving for anniversary or saving for the next Hero Festa, but it's still nice to see what you guys have to say down below in the comments. Now, of course, like I said, there are a lot of banners out right now, and furthermore, there's going to be one more banner later today or tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world, where we get the anime gotcha banner, right? So there's 5 new banners coming out this week, and I know a lot of people might be wondering, if you're a new player especially, right? They may be wondering, should I summon on these banners? Are they any good? What do I do, kind of thing, right? So of course this video is primarily dedicated for those who are really confused in terms of whether or not they should summon. But of course, if you are a veteran player, I always suggest, you guys can leave your own thoughts down below in the comments. Maybe you guys might want to add a couple of points to what I've already said. Maybe you guys can recommend some more things as well down below in the comments. So yeah, of course, I would suggest watching the entire video, and that way you guys get a better idea of what I think about the units and what the units are capable of doing basically for you potentially, right? So we'll start off with the RD and Elise banner because they're first on the screen right here. Makes my life a lot easier. So we're gonna start off with, I think, whoever is gonna be on the left hand side for us to see. Elise. Okay, perfect. Elise is on the left hand side. Now, out of these two, in all honesty, I would say actually out of all 3 banners, I would say in terms of the most usability across similar-ish teams and can be run maybe on the same team, it's probably these 2 units in all honesty, because RD is one of those units that, while she is primarily dedicated towards being used on a stall team, you can run her on any other team as well, probably, and she'll kind of get away with it. But of course, Elise is a unit you primarily use her in a magic setup, of course, right? Especially a war games magic setup. She can be run to an extent in Wreck-It Buster as well. If you look at her skill, right, her special arts, she gets 70% damage per H strength and magic reduction skill on the enemy, very similar to a unit like, for example, Althea, right? Althea is more so on herself, but she can also be on the opponent on her 3rd skill, right, for example. So Elise is very similar to that, where the foes need to have the strength and magic reduction skills, which you can do, but it kind of runs into the whole issue of, well, if you reduce their strength and magic and then you protect yourself with physical resistances or magic resistances and stuff like that, you're gonna kind of run into the situation where, well, basically, you're not taking any damage for counters, so that becomes an issue at the end of the day. So yeah, we're primarily going to be using her in war games, and of course her ability to give allies agility, critical rate penetration plus 35% for 3 turns, and magic agility 70%, as well as light attack damage plus 80% for 6 turns is ridiculous. I mean, 6 turns first and foremost is insane. Again, it kind of is there to counteract all of these units that are capable of reducing the amount of turns that a certain status buff is available and status debuff is available. Your backline assists primarily, right? And then of course she gives so much magic and a light attack damage that she will be really strong on turn 2. The agility buffs, while nice for sure, right? Again, you're going to be facing units and opponents such as Vesta, Belle, and Ryu, and all of these adventurers who are capable of stripping away those agility buffs. So it can become a little bit of an issue, but it's still a really solid buff to have, especially if you're going up against an enemy who cannot strip away your buffs. There are so many units that are out there that don't do that. It's only a very few set of units that are capable of stripping away your agility buffs turn 1, and the fact that they may go slower than this Elise, who's anyways going slow because she has a slow inbuilt modifier on her anyways. So that's something to acknowledge. But then when you go to Crimson Rosales, which is her 2nd skill and her main damage dealing skill, It's a fast, high, light magic attack, damage plus 35% per each self STR magic reduction skill. Now, this is again very similar to Althea, where it's dependent on the debuffs that is applicable to Elise herself, right? So she needs to be hit with STR and magic reduction skills, which in war games, 100% of the time you're gonna be hit with those STR magic reductions, be it from, especially if you're going up against a stall team, right? You're gonna 100% be getting the STR and magic reduction skill from the assist. And then furthermore, there's gonna be an adventure who will debuff your strength and magic. So you're basically gonna be topping out at about 35 times 4, which is 150%. Is that, if my math is right, I think it's 150%, there or thereabouts. So you're gonna be getting around 150% damage from this ability, which is ridiculous, right? 140 to 150. I think it's 140 actually. It's 140, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, 104. Is my math right? 35 plus 35, 70, 140. 140. We got there in the end, all right? We got there in the end. I'm an engineer. I need to know my math, all right? I had to get it right. But yeah, 140% damage from that as well. Furthermore, she removes agility buffs and also inflicts minus 35% MRES and damage received attack type all targets plus 35%. Really strong, really strong in that regards. Of course, this last part is kind of in all honesty nowadays, especially because you have Lefia, the short-haired Lefia, if you're a magic user who's capable of inflicting minus 40% MRES and plus 40% damage received for attack type all targets. So it has been a little bit power crept already, that part of the skill, but the fact that she removes agility buffs and is a fast ability, right? It's something to take note of, for sure. It's something to take note of. Again, I think if you have a maxed out magic team with the likes of potentially short-haired Lefia, the Hero Festa Elise, of course, you have, well, a unit we're going to talk about in just a second, Lyra, and of course a fourth magic unit in the form of, like, say, Wine or something, for example, or even a sort of or Supply Princess Eyes, because Supply Princess Eyes is somebody you would rather want, actually, because Supply Princess Eyes gives null physical attacks. Hero Festa Elise gives the null magic attack times 2 as well, and then of course Lyra is the agility debuffer, and then of course the fourth unit I mentioned was short-haired Lefia, who's of course going to be able to give the debuffs. I think with all 4 of those units, this Elise has lost out a little bit. At one point I would have said she would have been a fantastic option for magic teams, but I think now she's a good alternative for sure. She's definitely a good alternative, but is she a must summon? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Now, on the other hand, this already is a phenomenal assist for stall teams, right? Like I said, and she's a assist that can probably go on to adventure that can go on to majorly, I would say, any team, but primarily you're going to use her in stall. Of course, her special arts is kind of nice. Of course, Ultra HP heal, remove status buffs, ailment cure, and all that jazz, gives sleep as well on enemies. But you're going to be using her for her skills. So her skill 1 is a agility debuff, a dexterity debuff, critical rate, penetration rate debuff, and she also gives herself additional actions of giving avoid KOs to all allies for 4 turns basically, which is really good. Of course, because this if she survives, obviously for the duration of the fight, right, and she's able to go on to turns 2, 3, 4, whatever it may be, you're going to be able to at least give this avoid KO for that duration basically, which is really nice. Protasia Tornado is then where things get very interesting and very nice, because she obviously gives allies the strength, magic, P-res and M-res along with the HP regen, which helps a lot. But furthermore, she also removes any sort of STR magic, P-res and M-res debuffs basically, allowing you to basically survive a lot more, obviously, because when you're going up against units like, say, for example, the Lefia, or if you're going up against a Belle, a Hero Festa Belle, who's able to reduce your M-res or P-res respectively, you're going to want to strip away those debuffs so that you're completely fine and you're not going to take any extra damage, right? That's the idea with this ability. So, of course, I would say RD is still a probably must summon for a lot of players who are running the stall team, right? And you don't have RD, you want to use RD, I would say she's going to be very vital to your composition. So 100%. While the old RD you may have summoned for and she's a good option, I even mentioned it when we did the should you summon for the old RD. She's good, but she's not new RD good. They definitely didn't make her as good as the new RD, and there are a couple of reasons why. like I said, the the lowering of the agility, dexterity, critical rate, penetration rates. Furthermore, along with the avoid KOs additional actions, and then on top of the ability to strip away the debuffs, and of course give yourself the P-res and M-res, I think she does way just a bit more than the old RD, and that's enough to make her much more viable in terms of a stall team. So there's the first banner. I would say not a bad banner, but I would say that if you're a magic user especially, you're gonna want to summon on this banner for Lyra. I think Lyra is probably a must summon for a lot of players. Of course, you could have gotten the Earth Lyra as well, who's capable of doing very similar things, right? But I think this Thunder Lyra is just a little bit better in terms of the offensive ability side of things, right? And of course, with the ability to effectively attack with her skill, right? We're gonna go straight into it, by the way. We're not stopping. But what this Lyra does is she does a super thunder magic attack with ultra encounter rate and agility and thunder res minus 40% for 5 turns. Now, of course, you might be wondering, well, the Earth Lyra also has a minus 40% agility and Earth res minus 40%, right? But right now, we're in a situation where there's going to be a lot of nullifications going around. You know, you've got your Nocturnal Elf Brews, you've got your assists that are basically blocking magic or physical attacks, you've got your adventures like, Hero Festa Elise or Supply Princess Eyes, who have a lot of nullifications in their kit. So as a result, you're kind of wanting to basically chip away those nullifications on turn 1 so that the offense on turn 2 isn't going to hit nothing, basically, right? It's not gonna just hit nothing and move on. So having a unit like this over the Earth Lyra, who of course the Earth Lyra who I have at +5 is really nice, but the problem with the Earth Lyra is that, well, she doesn't hit on turn 1. She just debuffs the enemy and that's it. Whereas this Lyra will actually debuff the enemy. And furthermore, because her second skill is a buff effectively, right? She will go first no matter what, basically, right? So you're gonna go into Feign Advance and then do Wise Assault, which will allow you to basically go first and allow you to chip away at the enemy as well. So there's a couple of reasons why this Lyra is so valuable, and you're going to be seeing her in war games on Magic teams regularly. I say regularly, you're seeing it everywhere in war games right now, right? So that's something to take note of when you're taking this Lyra in. In terms of her third skill, you're not going to be really using her in Record Buster. She is a war games unit through and throughout, to be quite honest. So that's what I would say about this Lyra. And speaking of another unit that's a war games unit through and throughout, let's talk about Kaguya, who is a phenomenal turn 2 physical unit, right? You might have seen it being used regularly in war games up until recently. Of course, I'd say right now we're in a magic meta for sure, right? Some people are still running physical units with the likes of course, Eyes in Wonderland and a couple of other units as well, right? But primarily we're seeing a lot of magic teams. But this Kaguya was also a really good option for a lot of players because of how she was able to just deal a lot of damage on turn 2 and was capable of basically going first no matter what, right? The ability to give her reduce the opponent's P-res by 35% via slow, gives agility plus 70% for 5 turns to herself, and then an additional action which would have a lot of power behind it because of course of the 35% modifier per each target's strength, magic, and agility buff, which on the enemy it's going to happen more often than not because a lot of players would build that sort of like buffs up on turn 1. Nowadays, however, I would say like a lot of players are kind of abandoning that route, right? By going for maybe potentially just a turn 1 attack all rush, basically. Some still do buff it up, so you could still get a lot of this damage bonus off, right? But yeah, that's something to take note of as well. And then of course on the second turn, she'd give herself a fast STR and dexterity buff along with an SA gate charge gain of 100% and dark attack damage buff for 1 turn and remove status buffs. Again, this is just for 1 turn because then what you do is you just launch this, go into this. Because the 1 turn buff is active while that's going on, the additional action will proc and still have these buffs as well, which helps out tremendously. You might be wondering why it's only for 1 turn. Well, there you have it. It's basically to just take advantage of the additional action that 1 turn and go for it. The third skill is also a good option as well, primarily for PvE situations, right? But again, you're primarily going to be using skill 1 into skill 2 for war games. maybe skill 3 depending on the situation, but skill 1 and skill 2 are the go-tos in war games, and the way you will be seeing Kaguya being operated in war games is exactly like that. Really good unit. Would I say another must summon? Probably not. Again, this is a situation we're at right now where we're getting really close to the anniversary. We're really close to the third set of Hero Festa units, which we don't know what they're gonna do. And as a result, do I recommend summoning on either of these banners? Depends on what teams you have. I would say if you're running a Magic team, I think Lyra is sort of like a must summon in all honesty, especially if you have a couple of copies of her already from the first time she came around, right? So right now I would say deliberation for sure on whether or not you should go for them, to be quite honest. Now, Erebus and Astrea. This is a banner I would love to say summon for them, because Astrea, they're both assists, really always a kind of a must summon if it's a 2 assist banner, right? Both assists, if they're really good, you kind of can get them to a good limit break and be like, I'm living, right? Because a lot of the times whenever we do team building 101 videos, right, I always complain about the lack of assists on your guys' end, right? And it's not your fault, of course. It's just the situation of the game. You know, they assists have lower rates usually, and then furthermore on top of that, it's hard to get them to high limit breaks as a result of that, right? And this banner in theory would be really good for so many players because of that. But the problem is, Erebus is just not that great, in all honesty. Erebus is just not that great. He has some good qualities to him, I would say, right? Giving the god rate, counter rate, and heal minus 30% is all right. And then majorly, the one thing that's really good on him is when magically attacked, null M attacks times 1 and removes STR debuffs on allies. It's decent, especially if you're taking a physical team. You're going to be seeing a lot of magic teams along the way, right? Having something like that isn't really bad at all, right? Especially now, they definitely were prepping Erebus for the meta that we're in right now. But even then, would I say, is it a good assist to go for? I don't know, man. I really don't know if it's a good assist to go for, to be quite honest. It's just one of those things where I'm like, is it really that good though? Is it really that good? I don't know. But on the other hand, Astrea is such a good assist. Null ailment times 4, P-res, M-res 15%, and then fire, just all elements, attack damage up plus 15%. What an assist there, man. What an assist. Really wish I could have gotten her. But unfortunately, one do not disturb still applies. But also, I don't want to get Erebus, in all honesty. I'm not the biggest fan of Erebus as an assist, and I know a lot of players won't be either, to be quite honest. People will want to try and get Astrea. But the problem is, it's a 4 guaranteed step-up banner, 2nd, 4th, 7th, and 10th. And let's say you're going in for Astrea, you only get Erebuses, you're going to be in big trouble. You're going to be in big trouble. So as a result, do I recommend this gacha out of all 3 of these novel gachas? Probably not, in all honesty. Maybe you could get 1 copy of Astrea. You could try and see if you get 1 copy of Astrea. But even then, I would say just save. There are many more chances of getting null ailment units, in all honesty. There is a seer in the general pool who gives null ailment times 4. But yeah, I mean, you could try and get 1 copy. I would say maybe if you want, you could try that. But realistically speaking, that's the one thing I'm just scared of, is you guys getting Erebus more so than Astrea, and that being a huge problem. And then of course for our final banner, we have this Entrusted Justice Gacha banner. Of course, this is the Zord and Althea that released right before the 4th anniversary. This time around, they don't have a bell along with them, unfortunately, which is really weird. But we do have buffs for this Zord and Althea, which I've already gone over in another video on Tuesday, of course, going over their buffs, how good they were, and if they made them must summons as a result of that. I would probably say no. Out of all the 4 banners, this is probably the weakest banner, I would say. Maybe not the weakest banner. Actually, would I say it's the weakest banner? It depends on what you're thinking of summoning for and what your teams are looking like, I would say, actually. Because, in a way, I would say that some of these units are relatively decent. But I wouldn't necessarily say they're ridiculously insane units, in all honesty, right? They have some very funky things that make them very interesting. Like, for example, I really like the look of Althea's, like, M-res, God rate, and counter rate 70% to herself, which is very interesting to say the least. Right, and a couple of other things for her as well. The ability to remove agility debuffs, or agility buffs on the enemies, I should say, and damage reduction, attack type all targets, as well as and MRes minus 40%. I think there's just very interesting things going on here with Althea, and same with Zord as well. The 50% chance to taunt, the damage received attack, attack type all targets plus 40%. Heal and taunt res minus 40%. It's very interesting, but again, I don't think it's a good banner in comparison to the other units, right? You've got Lyra and Kaguya, really good banner. You've got Artie and Elise, who are still relatively good units for the teams that they will go into, that they will slot into. And then Erebus and Astrea have their uses, especially Astrea, more so than Erebus, I would say. So all in all, I would say if you're summoning, I would say go for one of these 3 banners, depending on what you need. But the other thing is, right, like I said, right now we're in a situation where your iris counts will probably be pretty low down, especially because of the recent Hero Festa, along with potentially the Zord and Althea time limited banner that we got last week. And then not only that, we're gonna be getting a Hero Festa in a couple of weeks time, along with potentially a new event who will contain new units. It will contain new units, so they might be better than what we are getting right now. So as a result of that, is it smart for you to summon on any of these banners? Probably not. Probably not. I'm gonna be real and say this, probably not. Unless you're running a magic setup, there is a good chance that we're done with the magic unit bonanza, right? We've gotten so many of the magic units recently, right? We've got a Hero Festa Elise, Hero Festa Ryu, Althea, Lyra, Short-Haired Lafia. There's just so many of these magic units coming out that it may be time for us to switch back to a physical meta. There might be a chance we might be switching back to physical units. So unless you're considering a switch to physical units, or if you already have physical units, maybe you might want to summon for this Lyra. Maybe you might want to summon for Elise and potentially Artie. So I would say it depends on what you are rocking and what you're running. Personally, I'm probably gonna skip all these banners. I'm not gonna be summoning on any of these banners, especially with the anime gacha coming out tomorrow as well, or later today, depending on where you're at. I might be summoning on that as well. So there is a lot of things to consider when going over this. But yeah, for now, I would say very tentative no. You should not summon on any of these banners. Even though I know it'll be probably a bit controversial to the veteran players and everything. I think that just generally speaking, if you're starting afresh and you don't have any of these guys at even like +1 or +2 from the first time they came around, is it worth going all the way to 10 steps and then not having your iris ready for the Hero Festa or whatever? No, I don't think it's worth it. So I'm looking at it from that perspective. Now, if you have, let's say, Lyra at +3 or +4, I don't think there's any harm in just trying to see if you can get her to +5. I think there is no harm in that because you're so close. You're so close that it's worth it. But that's only if you're at like +3 or +4 from the first banner. When we first got the banner, maybe then you can go in and summon. But right now, because of we don't know when the next Hero Festa is coming around, it could be at the end of this month. It could be after the next week's reveal, right? It could be in April. It could be so close, right? So it's just like I would recommend saving up for that rather than going on these banners with what we know could happen in the next couple of months / weeks even, I should say, right? So yeah, there you guys go. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Are you guys summoning like I said? I asked earlier on, I should say. Let me know and how it went if you did summon, and of course if you aren't summoning, let me know why. Maybe it's the reasons I said, maybe it's a different reason. Let me know in the comments. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this Should You Summon. Tried to get through it as quickly as I could because of course it's a 4-banner. It felt 4-banner Should You Summon, a lot to go over. So yeah, let me know how it went, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye everybody.